don't know the answer to.
Recording is on.
Welcome, everyone. This is Development Call, November 2nd. Don't mind my voice. Under the weather. It's not Corona. So first up, we've got the proposal from Luna Social that is from out of a series of conversations that we've had with them regarding how to best make a first engagement. They're down for putting liquidity up on DXSwap, and I think they've delayed their token launch, not because of it, but just out of coincidence. And I think we're still finalizing things for the DXSwap launch, so there's still a possibility that there can be like a simultaneous launch of the Luna token with DXSwap. I don't know if that's ideal. I don't know if we want to have DXSwap live for a while before the Luna sale starts. But the proposal, basically an MOU saying we'll be exploring joint promotion regarding their token, our DEX, and having like a real commitment of liquidity on there, which I think is amazing, especially if that liquidity is exclusive to like the DXDAO ecosystem, where the liquidity is generated off of Mesa and then migrated over to DXSwap. With the proper communication, I think we can help the community point them in the right direction, and see if they can start trading on our platform. So another interesting thing is Luna is going to have like a dual token launch, I believe, on like a different, like just two DEXs simultaneously. I guess they're going to give out details later on that, but it might be a similar thing to like what DeFi Money Market did with Dolomite and Mesa. So I don't know if that's a good move. I don't know if it incurs the risk that DMM had last time with scammers trying to point people into random links saying, "Oh, the token's here." But once the proposal passes, I think we can have a steady line of communication on when their token launches and any further announcements from them regarding that, so that we can sort of synchronize on it, and maybe that'll lead to more collaboration. So that's all I have to say on that issue. Do we have any like questions or comments about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's actually a pretty good opportunity to accomplish a bunch of different initiatives or kind of business lines or products that we've been trying to build for a while with Luna, because it's kind of emerging right now. So obviously the DXSwap you mentioned, but I don't know what the timing of how their timing is changing, but I thought that they were going to do a Mesa sale first, as you described it. So I assume there would be a Mesa sale, and then after that it would migrate to DXSwap. So I think the timing on that could be fine, considering if they do like a Mesa sale in like the next 2 to 3 weeks. I think like that would make sense for. I think that would fit the timeline of DXSwap there. Not if they were looking to like launch initially on DXSwap. And then secondly, I just read a really great article about Mesa working on XDAI, and I wasn't sure if this would be an opportunity for Luna to also open up that channel, so we could kind of do the Mesa mainnet and Mesa XDAI IDO and kind of help them with that, and then help that all of that liquidity transfer over to DXSwap. And it couldn't be a DXSwap on XDAI. So I'm wondering if we could kind of like, if we're partnering with them, this would be getting them to operate a lot on some of our schedule and time. But I wonder if we could try to do almost all of those things with them. It'd be a good opportunity, I think, for Mesa too.
Okay, so are they actually listed now on the XDI Mesa? I guess we can check that, but I assume it's just copied over to XDI that it retains the same list.
I don't know. I know that their token is passed on mainnet, but I know that the token registry on XDAI was.
XDAI,
Okay, maybe.
XDAI Mesa uses the XDAI DAO, XTX DAO, or whatever.
So, my guess is it's on there, right?
Or we could add it.
Right.
Nico might know off the top of his head. I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Sure.
Well, yeah, but right now we don't really have a XDX DAO. Like we don't. There is none. Like that one basically is not working, right? So.
Well, it's still there, but yeah, it's not as functional as we would like.
But I mean, I think XDAI, I guess the very simple process of IDL Mesa mainnet to DX swap, I think that we should be able to do that with a Luna, and we should figure out how to make that happen, regardless of the XDAI component.
Yeah, I've reached out regarding like when they plan to launch things. If I can get dates, I haven't really gotten anything specific from them yet regarding it, but it seems like they're not rushing. Yeah.
You mentioned they want to launch in 2 different exchanges to do the sale. Do you know which other exchange and why they chose to add another exchange?
I haven't gotten an explanation for it. I saw a tweet about it. If you give me a minute, I can look for it. But that is interesting. Bounce Finance.
Yeah, I think I heard this name, but I will look at it to see what they're offering.
Yeah, Bounce.finance, decentralized auction protocol.
It's really shitty. And a lot of scams are actually released on it, so there's nothing wrong with them, but just like it's too easy to trick people from this.
Interesting. Is there a way we could collect some of the data from this and like maybe the feedback and I guess just evidence to like bring over to them? And because I feel like ideally we would want the sale to just be on Mesa, right? So maybe it might be worth making the case that they stick to just a Mesa sale.
Do we know what their pros and cons are, why they want to do it somewhere else?
No, I mean, I read the tweet. I asked about it. I haven't heard anything. I read the tweet and there was no real explanation for it. But I know that DeFi Money Market, they wanted to do 2 exchanges to just reach more liquidity that way. And I know some of the guys, like Dolomite is owned by like a couple of the guys from DeFi Money Market, so it was kind of like in their personal interest to get activity there. Could be a similar thing for Bounce Finance. I don't know if they're that close to Luna in that manner, but I imagine that they're just kind of hedging and seeing like if one auction is better than the other.
I mean, user experience it would be easier for their users to do it on Bounce. No, like it's pretty simple from that perspective. But from the like partnership side, I don't see anything.
Right. So like, where are you seeing like these scams taking place, or where are you hearing about it?
Everywhere,
I'm just
like literally every time. If someone wants to make an IDO on Bounce, someone else could copy the name of the what do you call it, these cards that they have, and then they could same time publish that link or spam it out, or I don't know, hack a moderator's account, which happened. This happened with which one was it? They tried to make it go away, but what was the name? It wasn't a big idea where it happened. Someone hacked one of the moderators' Telegram account and published a bounce.finance IDO with a fake, like it was a fake IDO.
Jesus.
And yeah, a lot of people lost money, including me, by the way. So and that can't happen on Meta, right? Because you need to get the proposal over, and you need to your token on
Right.
the token list.
Sorry to hear about that.
No.
That's
I
very
mean this.
but that's a perfect example. Like they should probably know about that.
Yeah, I mean it was look when people. So nothing wrong with Bounce Finance. It's like people doing scams on Uniswap. Uniswap is not shitty for that, but just from the perspective where like scams are happening here, and if you want an easy way to make people do an IDO, there's risks, and that's where we should like maybe talk with them about this. Not scare them, but just get them to think about that point.
Right. So I'm sure they have multiple concerns. Like it could be around gas, it could be around user experience, it could be around just liquidity overall.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess depending on that, like we can make a case for just sticking with Mesa. So that's any more comments regarding Mesa next time or Luna? All right, so we can, if you guys like, we could continue some of the takeaways from the DX swap strategy call on Friday. I could point you to the thread again. Here you go.
Yeah, I can maybe kind of kick things off here. So trying to reach consensus, DX swap is we've been iterating on for a long time, and I think in the last kind of 10 days, there's been a lot of discussion on a host of different areas and revolves to strategy and moving forward. And I think we're getting to agreement, but we're actually, I think, still pretty far off in it. So on the kind of strategy side, it started with the optics of DXDAO providing liquidity at a significantly lower price than the bonding curve. So that's kind of concern one and how to address it. And sorry, I'm reading this. Yeah, so that's kind of the main concern. And then the discussion, I think on Friday, really we had like three things we agreed, or we were talking about as potential solutions to these. And these are different. So one would be some type of DXD buyback because DXDAO thinks the price of DXD is below the market. Two is the signal goal to have the DXD ETH pool of a certain size by a certain date. And if that's not met, then DXDAO will supply DXD itself. Not clear exactly on where that source would come from or what price. And then the third component would be that there would be like an Omen market bounty on whether this liquidity goal is reached, that the DXDAO itself would fund to try to basically encourage DXD holders to buy the YES tokens and then supply DXD liquidity, kind of benefiting from both of those. So that's kind of, I think, where we're at right now for things we need to come to some agreement on this week. I imagine that we need to have another signal proposal that goes this week that would kind of be an update on the previous one. So I think like the point of this discussion is like, what are we wanting to put in that signal proposal? One of the really great ideas I think that came out of the Friday discussion was this kind of conditional token yield farming. So the idea being we could use Omen as a bounty system to incentivize liquidity on DXSwap. So whenever anyone, so we would create, say, a DXD Omen, an Omen market that said that there will be X amount of DXD in this market on a certain date. And we would give that conditional token to anyone that supplied DXD liquidity. So people would be incentivized to hold DXD until the certain date would go. So I think that's a really interesting idea for kind of using all of our different products. I don't know if we need to find a conclusive strategy on that. I think what we need is like, well, what do we do to launch DXSwap in a secure and in a responsible way that kind of creates a good minimum viable product. And so for that, we need to possibly update the fee structure. So in the previous signal proposal, the fee was at 0.15%, primarily because we were trying that the liquidity was going to be coming from DXDAO, so the fees didn't matter. But if we're going to be trying to incentivize people to bring their liquidity over, that kind of changes the fee strategy. And then second, really, how do we, what's our approach to supplying liquidity or incentivizing liquidity? So that was kind of the conversation on Friday. I don't know if people had thoughts over the weekend as it marinated or other revelations since then.
I just want to add that I think the most pressing decision is what the default fee would be, because that actually is a parameter in the core contracts. So that is needed to launch. If that's going to change, we want to change that before it launches, and we're getting very close to the core contracts being released. So,
I guess another high-level question is, like, it seems like we have to choose between prioritizing the best interests of liquidity providers and traders. You might disagree, but it's just a thought that I'm having. And how would we prioritize them? I mean, in my opinion, I feel like the liquidity providers matter a lot, like the most, in terms of like users. So I think having fees that are leaning more towards their best interests are, I think, number one. And then number two, like very close second, is the traders, because like we want the activity for sure, but first comes liquidity, then comes traders.
and that was a piece of feedback that I think Pulp Machina, who actually joined the call on Friday, kind of articulated, was that for the liquidity providers, if the fee is 0.15%, you're kind of it's not going to be very appealing for them coming over from Uniswap at 0.3% or DXSwap at 0.6, or sorry, Balancer at like 0.6% for the 80-20 pool or 50-50 pool.
Yeah, I guess before we get into the fee strategy, I think it's important to decide whether or not DXDAO is going to supply liquidity, because the whole reason that we have low fees is that we don't have to worry about the liquidity providers in the initial stage, because DXDAO is going to be that liquidity provider. So if we decide not to do that, then I think we shouldn't use low fees at all. And I think we're moving towards that that direction. I just think like if we're not using DXDAO liquidity, then like low fees don't make any sense.
And what's the fundamental goal here? And like in my mind, the fundamental goal is to make DXSwap better than any other venue for trading, right? Get the most liquid pair with the most volume. Like we want to get the most volume, right? That's kind of the goal.
I think so.
Like the goal isn't just to use the treasury, right? The goal is to do what we can to.
So the only answer I think for this is this is what's so powerful about DXSwap is that we can change the fee. So at first we don't know if we set 0.15%, if we get 10 times the volume of Uniswap, even at 0.15% with 10 times the volume, that could be really good for LPs. But you don't know that balance until you actually try it. And if 0.15 after like the first month, even with massive volume, is still not great for LPs, DXSwap can increase the fee. So you have to just pick something at the beginning, but it's a balance between volume attraction and LP earnings. So you can't just say that higher fees are better for LPs. You don't know that. It's a balance. And so, but the best part is we can always change it after we see what happens. And we should tell everyone when we do change it, why we're changing it, and show governance and process.
Yeah, I think in addition to fees, like they care about trade volume. Those are like the two main things, right? Sometimes lower fees incur more trade volume.
Yeah, I mean, you care about returns. So it's like volume times fees.
And low fees might drive volume. So yeah, it's like a pricing problem, right? And there's not a clear directional answer here, right? But
I haven't heard a good argument for why, if DXDAO is not providing liquidity, why low fees would be a good strategy.
Well, I think the argument there would be that low fees will attract more volume. And then if you win the volume, you still end up with a better return. That's the idea with going low on fees, I think.
I think volume is driven by Uniswap.exchange, right? Like you'd have to convince all of the traders to kind of come over, and it would be tough to do that. I think that then you have to come up with a strategy to like have traders switch from Uniswap to DXSwap.
Aggregators will automatically do that.
Yeah, I think most people go to Uniswap.
Yeah, but then part of that strategy would be beating Uniswap on price, right? So that there is a reason to go to DXSwap.
Yeah, but just because you beat something on price doesn't mean you like drive flow. Like, I mean, Balancer beats a lot of stuff. You know, Uniswap.exchange is like where everyone's going to first buy things. Or at least that's like the most consistent flow.
I mean, I just think in terms of starting fees, like the default, like the whole point is that they can be adjusted eventually, right? Like, or they can be adjusted by governance. But for starting fees, like the feedback from Pulp Machino is that 0.15% is too low. And so like, I just kind of agree that we might as well keep it not too far off of what the liquidity providers are used to right now if we're trying to pull them up.
So we're not going, there's going to be no DXDAO supplied liquidity, because I think we need to like establish that first. And I don't know if we've established that, because it doesn't make sense to have high fees if DXDAO is providing liquidity.
I don't think it makes sense to compete with other DX. This is the feedback, right, from on the forum and stuff, is that the DXDAO should not be competing with DXD holders on liquidity providing, unless there's a good reason for it. And the only good reason I could see it would be to make DXSwap win somehow, right? So I would think you would only want to provide liquidity from the treasury as like a last resort if it's necessary to get DXSwap into a good position.
Yeah, I think there could be. I guess it's difficult because there's like DXD holders and then like DXSwap strategy, and they're actually not perfectly or necessarily aligned in like the short term. But I think like long term, DXDAO should be able to market make and use its treasury. And so
this is with DXD specifically we're talking about here, right? Like not in general.
Right.
I have a thought here. So if you go to check where to buy, if you want to buy DXD today, and then you want to put in, let's say 4K, you don't go to Uniswap, right? Because the price will go away like real fast, and you'll actually lose on that trade. But if you go to Balancer, you would be able to do that trade much better. So my question is, first of all, if we want the volume on DXSwap, we need a lot of DXD ETH, right? We need like a lot. And if we're gonna beat that, we need also the liquidity providers to not feel that they are losing DXD if they wanna hold DXD. My guess is people are actually putting DXD on Balancer because they are long-term bullish on DXD. Do you think that could be why maybe liquidity providers go into Balancer versus Uniswap?
Yeah, I think there's a lot in the 80-20 pool.
So if that's the case, then we have like a chicken and egg problem again here. So we need a lot of DXD on DXSwap. We can provide that, but if we do, then DXD holders can't make as much money by providing liquidity because we have, let's say, the majority of the liquidity there. But we need to stabilize the price at a certain point without making the price slippage too high. So I think we need somehow to move the Balancer people, not the Uniswap people. And that's the long-term holders. One of them is me. I want to move my liquidity to DXSwap. So how do I not lose my DXD? And like I don't want to have more ETH. I want to keep having DXD, but I still want to provide liquidity. So that's maybe just one thing to think about, not just the fees.
Yeah, that's a fundamental difference between Balancer and Uniswap. I would say that if you look at I'm looking at the balances right now from the token contract, and the 50-50 pool on Balancer has 700 DXD, and the 80-20 has 1600. But that means that in terms of the ETH liquidity in both of those pools, they're pretty close, right? I think the 50-50 is just a little bit under. So your actual like slippage, I think, is not that different between the two. And I don't know. I haven't looked at like the returns on each pool, but
isn't the fee on that one like 2% or something?
for which one?
The 50-50. I can't remember.
I don't know. But I guess like DXSwap today does not have the ability to like offer what Balancer offers in terms of having a like 80-20 weight, right? So we're not really in a good position to compete on that front.
No, and this is where it could be a problem. Like now the price is really low. If we put in a lot of liquidity, or if we want the community to put in a lot of liquidity at this price on DXSwap, we're basically stabilizing the price at this.
If we could lure the Uniswap V2 and the 50-50 pool from Balancer over, like if those moved to DXSwap, that would have better liquidity than the 80-20 pool on Balancer. Better slippage.
I think in terms of the chicken and egg problem here, the user, like the traders, are the more important, in my opinion. At least from like a little research into it, it seems like the traders on Uniswap are not that price sensitive, so they wouldn't even go to check somewhere else to see if they will get a better deal. They just use Uniswap because it's Uniswap. I don't know, because of the brand, because they are used to it. So if you get those traders somehow, I'm not sure the way is has to be liquidity or more liquidity, because they don't even check the prices all the time. But if you get them, then some liquidity has to evolve because it will be profitable. There will be fees. So it's not a solution. It's just an insight that I think the traders themselves are more important than the LPs in this case.
So what would it take to get consensus? What would be like the best way to just vote on how we start this thing? Because we get
I don't know what I think. It's the problem. I don't know if the other people like. I think when I talk about consensus is more about like me thinking about these things through, because it's tough. They're just like you adjust one thing and it's like this other thing, right?
Well, so the sequence sort of matters here, right? And the only thing I think we need consensus on right now is the default fee.
Right.
We can delay the conversation about adding liquidity because, for one thing, it's just not like it's going to launch before we get the relayer to add liquidity, anyways, right? So I would say, like, for now, let's just focus on answering that one question. Like, should we leave the default fee at 0.15%, or should we change it? Because that's currently there's a signal proposal that passed with the 0.15%.
And that's on the DXD pool, or that's just the
this
DXD
is the default pool
across,
fee. So when you create a new pair, it's going to be 0.15%.
Yeah.
So,
Once we
I was gonna say, I actually think that has a bigger effect on, like, I don't know if we should have that low fee across all pools in general, because I think that this would be, we're just talking specifically about the DXD ETH pool, but even like creating a new pool, like, is DXSwap the place for low fees liquidity providers? And like, I don't know if that's like a good thing. Default.
I would be in favor of like 0.25, I think, myself.
Yeah.
Like, the reason being, like, it's different than Uniswap. It's slightly better for traders, but it's not drastically off. And so, like, to avoid the reaction like that pulp machine had.
Yeah.
So I made a survey a while back. I think you guys might remember it. I posted one of the results in the DXSwap channel, and it is a very close. It's asking how, if you were a liquidity provider, how would you set your liquidity pools fees? And the highest was 0.2%. That was like the winning choice, but very, very close behind was 0.3%. So it might make sense to have the default be 0.25%, just based on like a bunch of opinions.
That's consistent with what Pulp Machina had said too. I think
Yeah, and just to close it up though, because obviously the fees are affected by the liquidity providers, and so even if we're deciding the fee, which I think that's what we need to do, like, to do that, we first need to like then make the decision that like DXDAO is not going to be supplying DXD liquidity at the current price, and I think we have consensus on that. So then that would be the fee thing. But I think that just kind of does, then we need to think a lot more about how to attract liquidity to DXSwap.
Hey guys, I have a quick question for you here. And maybe this is a silly question, and swat it down if it is, but is the reason we are setting a default fee for the pool is so that everyone can essentially jump on to that pool and have it be kind of one unified pool, as opposed to having multiple pools for the same pair?
Yeah, you can only have one. You can only have one pool per pair.
Why is that?.
That's how the smart contracts work right now. That's
Could you?
That's
so
how
you
Uniswap
couldn't-
works.
You couldn't design it in a way where you can create your own pool for whatever pair you want with whatever fee you want, and then like as you're trading, it would just use the best fee for you as a trader, dependent upon how much liquidity you're trying to access, and then it just kind of goes down. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah, you could
Right.
design it to support multiple pools for the same pair.
Because then you wouldn't
That's
have
not
it
how it works
setting
here.
the. Oh, okay.
So I mean, that could be a discussion or something that gets developed in a future version, but it would delay things I think quite a bit to do that now.
Okay, makes sense.
I think just due to the constraints, we probably have to go this route of selecting the default.
Yeah, basically having a default fee is like a requirement right now for how the system works. So we needed to decide on what that is before it launches, which could be soon. And we already have a proposal for 0.15. So then the question really is, do we do another proposal for 0.25 or 0.2 or whatever?
So the one thing is 0.25 is basically 0.3. So it's like you copy Uniswap and you slightly change it. Like 0.5 base points doesn't matter. 0.15 is actually something that's different. And you'll see, do LPs like it? Do traders like it? Does it get all the volume from aggregators? Like, and you actually can make a decision based on what happens with 0.15, like, or even like 0.1. It's like something that's quite a bit different. Otherwise, you just like apparently 0.3 was like very mathematically chosen to like by Vitalik and team and Hayden and people, and it like happens to be like this perfect number to like make up for impermanent loss and all that kind of stuff. But like, so you can just copy that. Like there's a reason it's 0.3%, or we can do something different and see what happens.
The default fee can be updated, right? That's, I mean, so for all, because I know each pool's individual fees can be updated, but like in 3 months, if we said, okay, no, we want all new pools to launch with 0.4% fee, we could update that then, right?
No.
I want to say no, but let me confirm that. I need to look.
Because I think that would be, because like I like Sky's idea of like experimenting, but I think that's if we're stuck with that every time a new pool would ever launch on DXSwap, that would tie us into this strategy a little bit more.
That's true.
That would be a huge commitment, I think.
You can always update like a lot of individual ones. I mean, depends on what you're gonna have, right?
0.25 is close to what people are used to. It beats Uniswap.
Yeah, but I mean, we gotta. I mean, I think what Sky's saying with experimentation is actually a good point. That we don't really know how that would work, and I guess if we're doing, I think that's something that we could adjust or not, or something. Maybe I'm thinking specifically of the DXD ETH pool and not the default fee. I don't think we know what LPs want, Ingemar.
I made a survey.
I know. I don't think that's a very scientific survey.
But it's better than anything else we have.
It's better than your opinion.
Yeah. I think that's the best.
It's better than one guy's opinion or two guys' opinions.
0.2, 0.21, 0.2.
Except for the false sense of accuracy that it gives versus my opinion when you know that I'm just shooting off whatever. Because that's what I'm discussing and arguing with, is because you say it's what LPs want. I'm saying you may think that's what they want, but we don't know that's what they want. I mean, that's the whole reason we live in uncertainty.
Data we could collect. Yeah, you're right.
Say that.
Based on the best, it's a lot still better.
I don't think that's the best data we can collect either.
It's the best data we have.
That doesn't mean it's good.
It's better than yours.
Whose data is better?
What if I told you everyone that filled out the surveys on this call, Ingmar?
There's 61.
But I would say that this is more of a marketing thing, right? So, okay, the swap fee is hard coded. So this is forever.
Hmm.
The default,
So I think that really changes
the
things.
default swap fee. Because you need to start somewhere when you create this thing, right? So
Point
we'd have
three.
to totally change it.
Yeah. Point 3 was chosen for a reason. So I guess that,
Was it? I thought it was like a finger in the air, or maybe I.
no, they did some like analysis and yeah, it's like finding an optimization. They did some like optimization analysis, I think. But it's not the rest. It's not the perfect answer, but
Yeah, and I also think things have just changed so much, like in a month, 6 months, 6 weeks, just like kind of the dynamics of how money is moving around. I think Zet really has like kind of the framing of the goal is to be like the place where you could buy the most DXD. And I do buy the argument that if we don't want to compete with the DXD that's currently being provided. We want to like move it over. And so the question is like, how do we get Balancer to move the pools on Balancer to move over? And I guess this is separate from the fee discussion. It's just making me think about that.
So we have one thing we can't control about this, which probably would change the game. It's the price. Okay, if the price was one DXD, one ETH, Balancer pools would probably be more willing to come to us. But right now, like if you are long-term holder for DXD, you don't want to put. I wouldn't like to put my liquidity on Uniswap or DXSwap. It doesn't make sense for you if you're a believer. And yeah,
we may not get the 80-20 pool. I think I would just acknowledge that.
I mean, what's the pitch to switch?
So I mean, first of all, it's a DXSwap is a DXDAO product, so hopefully you're aligned with the DXDAO products, right? But I think it needs to be beyond that. It's a carrot or a stick, right? And so the carrot could be yield farming of some sort, and the stick could be the DXDAO will step in if necessary with its own treasury, and then you are competing. So if you don't move in favor of DXDAO, like the DAO itself will like punish you for that.
So
by competing against you.
How I see it, at least, is first of all, yeah, we are a DXDAO product. If you wanna buy or trade DXD, you come to us because, yeah, we have the best liquidity. But it, like from the LP's perspective, it doesn't matter where you go if the volume is low. So if people start trading DXD at DXSwap and we get the volume, even though let's say Balancer still is relevant, it's probably gonna be relevant because of arbitrage. We can somehow win the volume game because of traders, hopefully, not just bots or arbitragers. So if we can just be the official place to get your DXD, both like we have the bonding curve already, yes, but if we could just link, let's say if we put the link which says, oh, you could trade there might be a lower price at one of these places, and we put like 3 links, and one of them is us or whatever, if we want to be balanced. But if we could just win that game, volume game, it would change for the LPs. It's not worth it for them to just keep their liquidity somewhere where there's no trades. So I don't think I don't think people actually like go trading on Balancer. They go trade on Balancer because it's lower, like the price is better. That's it. No one thinks, oh, Balancer, let's go trade there. No, they check the price, then they go to Balancer or compare. So I think we could win it, but I'm a little bit like hesitant because to win it, we need to stabilize the price at this price right now. We need to put a lot of liquidity at this price point, and that's not positive from the trade from the holder's view, because we are basically making it harder for the market to go up because of added liquidity.
And that's why we
Much
should
harder.
give the holders a fair chance to win the market at DXSwap first, right? Before coming in with treasury liquidity.
Yeah, and that's why I really do like it's like a marketing story kind of for that, because it is, because you're trying to get people to switch, and kind of to Zet's point, like we could do that. We could come in with the big guns and really make that pool, but we're trying to like offer that first to DXD holders, DXD LPs now. So I guess we do that, and then we like just by like if we get them to go over, that's enough, or like how else we like driving volume or whatever. I guess we just create the largest pool or incentivize them or carrot stick them to do that.
I mean, from the product side, like if we just ignore the pool side, like DXD and the pools or whatever, just from the product side, we want to be one of the better swap services. That's like a separate thing. So we have the experience and all of the other things, and those have nothing to do with price and pools. So we are fighting not one war, we're fighting different wars. And I think we didn't need to be number one, but at least like we need to think like strategically here, because we can't do everything at the same time, I think, but we need to take one step now and fight those other wars later, and like trust the process instead, like have some kind of roadmap. Otherwise we'll just be afraid to take a step. We'll always be like, oh, this is not perfect, this is not good enough. So I would say, just take one step
Trust
at a
the
time.
process. The process is good. We should start saying that.
The goal, I think, is to win volume, and I think the first goal that comes before that, though, is having the best liquidity, right? To get the best slippage, the best price, and that'll be one way we try to attract the volume.
Okay, so if we do that, this is where I'm saying. So if we have the best liquidity, which means the biggest liquidity, right? So that means we are losing another war, which is like we can't control what the prices will be, but we can actually control how hard it take, like how much volume it needs to take to bring the price up, right? We stabilizing the price at this point if we put liquidity right now.
Well, that's if we use treasury liquidity. Yeah, that's why I think the first goal should be to get liquidity to migrate so that it doesn't impact the circulating supply.
So when we talk about buyback, I've heard like us talk about doing the buyback on Misa. I'm not sure exactly how that would work, because someone needs to put up the liquidity, right?
If the treasury were to do a buyback, we'd put it in an order to buy DXD on Mesa.
Who is the one selling at this price?
Selling the DXD?
Yes.
Well, I mean, if you put in the order above the market price, anybody who's providing liquidity on Uniswap or Balancer will sell, right? And the arbitrageurs will make sure it happens.
Yeah, I mean, how I see it, what we could do also is, first of all, someone puts up liquidity, like one of our members or users put up liquidity on DXSwap, set the price. And then we start the program saying we're doing buyback. We do it in stages. Let's say, I don't know the stages, but so what could happen is, okay, now the volume is dry on other places. We don't like, people are not super bullish on DXD, but there's a buyback. There's a chance for people that want to get out now. And also there's an opportunity to actually buy DXD and sell it later for higher price, because the buyback will push a price higher, probably. This is not, we can't guarantee shit, but what I'm saying is we could get liquidity providers to move their liquidity just for the buyback also.
If we did the buyback directly on DXSwap.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's maybe a good idea. We might have some technical work to make that happen. But
So that's interesting. I guess let's talk about the buyback broadly too. Is that something we've got consensus on? I know there's some different short-term and long-term
mixed
considerations.
feedback on that too.
I still think that's a better idea right now.
If the
Yes,
buyback,
it is short term.
if the buyback
because the price is low.
has some, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it's might not really be possible to do the buyback on like an AMM if you're worried from front running. So it really depends on the size of the trades we want to execute.
Yeah, the downside of doing a buyback through DXSwap is that arbitrageurs are going to take a lot of that money, basically, and not necessarily the traders.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if, I mean, arbitrageurs would potentially take it from Mesa as well, though, right? I mean,
Depends on the gas day.
that's the problem with doing a buyback in some ways.
Yeah, for sure. If there's no like real demand, or like arbitrageurs can always buy on the AMM and then sell to the buyback order on Mesa, but there's this kind of period where you have like fair chance for everyone to bid on this opportunity and without needing to compete for gas prices.
Hey guys, I'm curious if we would be talking about the concept of a buyback if the price of DXD was higher.
No.
Probably
And
not.
also, once we start launching more products, I think that's like incentive for the community to buy DXD, because they're going to say, oh, look what they're doing. I got to get in now.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an argument to be made that part of there's a couple of bearish things, right? Like one is DeFi is bearish overall. Like if you look at any other DeFi token on CoinGecko, they're down significantly. And then the other thing is, some people in the community complain that like DXSwap hasn't launched yet, etc. So I mean, I think maybe there is an argument to focus on shipping before doing a buyback. The other things are the governance 2.0 and the bonding curve things, which are governance 2.0 is kicking off. And both of those should be bullish for DXD, I think, right? Like at least how I see it. I anticipate that those will both be bullish for DXD.
Just from like a milestone development perspective?
Well, I mean, just like from the discontent of the community, what are DXD holders upset about, right? They're upset about potentially the bonding curve minting DXD. They're potentially upset about the fact that they have no voting rights, and they're maybe upset that DXSwap hasn't shipped yet. Those are the three things I see in Telegram coming up over and over again. Excuse me. So like maybe before doing a buyback, we just focus on knocking those down first, right? Like we can address DXSwap by shipping, which we're already planning to do. We can address the voting rights should be addressed by the governance 2.0 workshop, and the bonding curve should be addressed by the bonding curve working group.
I mean, we could use all these three stuff you said there, John, to do some kind of like roadmap of what's gonna happen, like Q1, let's say Q4, and Q1, and then that would be like our DXswap launch. Like we will launch it, but the liquidity program will not launch this and that, and then we maybe, let's say, the bonding curve will be this and that later on. So we have like a timeline when stuff is gonna happen, and I think just having that planned or communicated at least will create some kind of volume.
I think a lot of this is like communications, right? Like how do we tie these things that are going on together with communications and making sure that people see it in action, right? I mean, go look at Telegram right now. Like, what is the latest?
Yeah, I don't think we should
What's the
be
last two
I don't
comments?
think we should be governing off of Telegram.
Yeah, but this is not just Telegram, Chris. Like this is, 100 thread comment on DAO Talk about the bonding curve. This is the price, right? This is people repeatedly saying this in Telegram. Like, how do I vote? Even Martin and Vitalik on Twitter complaining that like there's no voting rights for DXT, right? So like this is not just, I saw something on Telegram over the weekend. This is, I'm seeing this over months, right? Like repeatedly complained about in several forums. The Telegram, DAO Talk, Twitter.
I mean, I think I agree with all of those comments. I'm just saying, like, yeah. I mean, I think that I think we're obviously like in a like moment in the market right now, and like those moments at like the bottom of the market like never really feel good. It would be nice to know that maybe DXD is separate, from that, but. So I just want to like make sure that we're like we're not making decisions like based upon like the current market, just on the current market sentiment. But
it is connected. Like we are funding through these people. I agree with you. Like we should have roadmaps and long-term thinking and not get too like attached to what they like the community is saying, but we have still like the ICO is still going on, really. So that's, if we did a funding process and then had a roadmap and closed it down, that would be a different story. But we still have the bonding curve open.
And my point is, yes, the market is doing what it's doing, and we can't really control the macro picture, right? But my point is, if you look at Telegram, there are people complaining about things and nobody's answering them, right? Why is that? There's 2,000 people in Telegram. Why is nobody answering this question that's right now the last question on Telegram? That to me is a failure of communications, a glaring failure by DXDAO to do like good communications. And this is the BizDev call. This is what we should be talking about. Like, what is going on here?
Maybe we have an internal communication, and I think we should somehow have maybe one person that take care of the external communication. And I don't know if we have that.
Yeah, I think we need somebody or more than one person responsible for comms. I think that's part of the problem.
Weren't we talking about this last week? Like how we need a real legit communications person?
Yeah.
Maybe it's time.
Yeah, I think so. But I mean, I guess the reason that I feel like this is coming up is because you go back to, well, what about the buyback? Why would we do the buyback? And this is all kind of tied together. But maybe just to like loop back to I think the more pressing question, I think we need to decide something on the fee, because the smart contracts are going to be ready in like 2 days. So the fee is going to be set one way or another. And the current proposal is 0.15%. So if we're going to change it, we got to change it now.
Is the DXDAO, is that votable? Could we like do a quick poll or something on there?
If you're gonna put your gen in?
My gen's already there, man.
You got more gen?
Well, if I get it back from there.
Yeah, I think it's unusable at this point.
Well, I mean, what do we just do? What do people on this call think? We'll just go around the table here.
I'm down to make a proposal for 0.25% default fee. But like, should that go in with other details, or should just
So
the signal proposal be that?
this is the argument. 0.25 makes sense. Like there's a reason if you assume that there is a reason that Uniswap chose 0.3, something around there makes sense. If you're going to choose a default, but you want to be slightly different, 0.25 makes sense. We're not going to have tons of pairs, right? Like in DXD and the strategic pairs where we want low fees, we can manually move them lower from 2.25 down, and we can move them up. Maybe we move them to 0.5, but like we can move these fees around. So 0.25, which is basically 0.3, seems fine, unless anyone really doesn't like that. 0.25 seems good. Does anyone not like 0.25?
I like
I guess
it.
we could just do
seems-
0.3% too, if we're.
Same, right?
Yeah, it
I'm
seems
not
like the
sure if
shelling point of the market is kind of 0.3, just because Uniswap is the shelling point right now. So if you do anything else, you need like something to prove why that's a